Welcome back, my friends. This is a little late, and I know we tried to stream earlier, but I was having technical difficulties. Anyway, today we're taking a look at the latest champion, Locke, who just received a bit of a champion spotlight. A lot of people had the same opinion I did. He looks like a character from Hellsing. He looks like Alexander Anderson. Just from the start. I would look up a picture, but I'm sure a lot of you know what I mean already. Anyway, we're going to take a look at him. We're going to take a look at the latest patch notes 26.12, and yeah, I have nothing else to say. Let's just get into it.
After years of intense occult training, Locke became an expert at tracking down monsters and purging their evil without hesitation. Fearless in the face of danger, with no tolerance for the guilty, Locke is on a mission to make the world a more honest place, one exorcism at a time. In-game, Locke is an AP assassin who turns early skirmishes into major advantages, snowballing into a devastating weapon against squishy enemy targets. It's time to lock in, mid laners. Welcome to the Locke Champion Spotlight. Let's start with Locke's passive Silver Stake, which empowers his auto attacks with bonus damage on hit. Silver Stake's damage increases based on the enemy's missing health, enabling him to deal more damage to weakened foes. Locke's Q is Ritual Nails. He throws a nail forward, damaging, marking, and slowing all enemies hit. He can recast this ability twice more before going on cooldown, with the slow improving on enemies with more marks. Attacking a marked enemy consumes the Ritual Nails, dealing significant damage per stack. Ritual Nails pierce, allowing you to get stacks on multiple enemies simultaneously. Be sure to aim them properly to maximize your damage. Next up is Locke's W, Soul Ignition, which increases his movement speed, decaying over a few seconds. While active, Locke suffers true damage based on his current health every second. When the ability ends or is recast, Locke heals based on the champion damage taken, including self-damage, his missing health, and how long the ability was active. Soul Ignition can be recast while crowd control, so even if you're out of other options, make sure to heal back up before your opponent sends you to.
Wow, that's actually kind of neat. I like that. I like that a lot. It's, in a way, it's kind of like Tom Kench's Grey Health, right? It's essentially that kind of ability.
An early grave. Every assassin needs a way to stick to their target. Locke's E, Ashen Pursuit, lets him blink, dealing damage around him upon arrival. After casting, Locke's next attack will trigger a dash toward his target, damaging all enemies in his path. Ashen Pursuit also consumes Ritual Nail stacks, just as basic attacks would. Ashen Pursuit's dash is a fixed distance, so keep your positioning in mind when hunting down your foes. Whenever Locke secures a takedown, Ashen Pursuit's cooldown resets, allowing you to keep staking your claim across the enemy backline. Finally, Locke's ultimate is Purgatory. He throws his totem, which fires out to damage and slow enemies in that area. The totem stays open for several seconds. During that period, afflicted champions are executed if they drop below the health threshold, whereupon their souls are pulled inside the totem. If any souls were trapped, the totem seals itself and remains where it was thrown at the end of its duration. Locke can pick it up to partially refund Purgatory's cooldown and gain a permanent bonus for each afflicted champion who was killed. Purgatory's debuff is time-based, not distance-based. Run as far as you want, but if you're brought low while the totem is active, there is no escape. Fun fact, abilities like Yasuo's Wind Wall can't block the incoming totem toss, but they can interact with the missiles it throws upon landing. Just a little detail that'll help you nail down players who don't know any better. You're welcome. Locke needs to be aggressive early and often to become a major threat. Look for opportunities to secure 3 Ritual Nail stacks and massively slow the enemy lane, especially if they're overextended in the laning phase. Time your Ashen Pursuit dash to cut off their escape route. Soul Ignition allows Locke to go all in on high-stakes plays. Use W to gain the movement speed needed to tower dive. Stay in the fight as long as you can, and recast the ability just in time to heal back up and survive the encounter. Early in the game, Locke has the damage and mobility he needs to take punishing trades against tankier champions. But Locke's damage doesn't scale off max health, so defensive items in the mid to late game can greatly hinder his kill potential. Use Purgatory and Ashen Pursuit resets to chain kills off their squishier teammates before taking them on. Like most assassins, Locke is relatively fragile and weak to crowd control. Coordinated ganks can punish his early aggression, and he'll struggle to get value from ritual nails if you approach him from different angles. However, if you leave Locke unmarked or take unnecessary risks in the laning phase, you'll have a hellish game ahead of you. If you love AP assassins or thrilling snowball champions like Echo or Zed, you'll enjoy the high-risk, high-reward gameplay Locke delivers. Exercise your inner and outer demons in style with Locke the Ashen Exorcist.
All right, so that's Locke. Honestly, there was nothing about this champion that immediately had me thinking 200 years, what were they thinking? I actually kind of think that his abilities are kind of reasonable for an assassin, right? Ooh, I actually really like this splash art. The colors and everything is very nice. Pins enemy souls with his attacks, dealing bonus magic damage on hit, increased based on enemy missing health. So yeah, we knew that already. Set of soul nails to throw forward, dealing magic damage, marking enemy's hit. They apply slow based on stacks. Attacking consumes the nails, dealing magic damage per stack. Stores a portion of cooldown and mana for unspent nails. So it's actually on a shorter cooldown if you don't use all three. Locke releases his own seals, gaining move speed, decaying over time. While this effect is active, he suffers % health true damage per second, but heals back a portion of damage taken. Okay. Blink to a location, dealing magic damage after... Can you blink anywhere, or do you have to blink onto enemies? Next attack dashes to his target. Oh, so he blinks wherever he wants, and then the attack does damage. So it's kind of like Echo in a way, right? But backwards. Echo's E is a dash, and then when you click someone, you blink to them. So this is the opposite. You blink, and then when you click someone, you dash to them. At least that's what I'm thinking this means. And then the cooldown resets on takedown. Alright, Purgatory. Locke kicks a binding artifact to a location. Mark champions that are brought below threshold are killed. Champion executed. Duration of the binding is reset. Ooh, wow. I didn't know that. The binding resets on other affected champions, so you can keep it going for a long time, potentially. If Locke picks up the artifact, he permanently increases the execution threshold. It reforms a portion of his cooldown. Okay, so that's the buff you get if you pick up the ult. If you manage to pick it up, the execution threshold increases. Very interesting. Okay, so that's Locke. Overall, I kind of like the direction they're going with this. He doesn't feel like mind-numbing nonsense, you know? Like, compared to a meta assassin right now, like, I don't know, Neferi, where it's like, I have a point and click, I'm going to get to you and one-shot you no matter what with untargetable. You know, stuff like that. He seems not that bad to punish, honestly. But we'll see. Right? As far as assassins go, he doesn't seem super mobile. He has options, but it doesn't seem like you'll never be able to catch this champion. It feels more like his mobility is geared towards pursuing targets as opposed to just jumping around all over the place. But we'll see. Another AP assassin. I'm very interested, and yeah. Yeah, he's going to struggle against tanks, I think. No % HP damage. He does have the execute for his ult, but like, if you're against a Scion who build Hollow Radiance, how do you kill it? You know, you just don't, right? You're not going to auto a Scion to death with this. So, okay. Now, let's move on to patch 26.12. More changes to follow up to recent Season 2 and support meta with a nerf to AP Xinjiao and a buff to Yuumi. Why? Why are we buffing Yuumi? For what? For what? I don't need more enchanters locking in Yuumi. Sorry, I'm trying to make this light a little bit more. That should be good. I'm just trying to make sure you guys can see me. All right. You all see me? Yeah, you can. Try not to mess up my camera. Okay. Moving on. Normal draft queue availability. We're happy to open up normal draft availability for these regions. Okay. I didn't even know that was a thing. Apex duo restriction was turned on with Season 2 start in some regions where Apex players also got a reset. We're actively monitoring the health of these top tier matches to build confidence. I mean, honestly, just keep it off. I feel like people at the highest level just really hate the having to deal with duos in general. Honor and social panel. Introducing honor and active penalty information to your social panel so you can easily track your standing. Cool. I feel like everyone gets Honor 5 pretty easily as long as you don't get a restriction. Alright, Aatrox. Our main champion. Actually, I think I've played more Set than Aatrox at this point. But yeah, I saw this buff already. The sweet spot damage has been increased by 5%. So from 70 to 75%. Looking to give Aatrox some love. He's been sitting on the sidelines for some time now, even though signs point to Darkin being a solid pick in the current meta. You know, I'm actually very concerned that buffing Aatrox won't actually bring him back into playability top lane. Because he's already a decent champion top lane. You get a decent matchup, he's a problem no matter what. But I think the real issue in terms of balance is Aatrox jungle. Right? Ever since Aatrox jungle kind of became a more viable pick. Was that earlier this year or at the end of last year? I think it was the end of last year that Aatrox jungle started to become popular. And just a direct buff like this, kind of scary. But you know, we're getting to the point where they probably want to see more Aatrox in pro play. Because I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to see more Aatrox in pro play. Gwen. Gwen has been cut out of the meta for quite some time across all skill brackets. You know, that's because Gwen is a pro lock champion, right? I feel like they both are, honestly. I feel like Aatrox and Gwen, their success is very much based on how popular they are at the highest level of play. And Gwen has this problem of, if she's good, she's broken at the top, right? So you're always going to have issues. With 26.09's mighty rate to Dust and Dawn, so we're giving her some of that power back in the early game. She'll remain a scaling pick, but a weaker first item spike has cost her early game a bit too much. Has it, man? I feel like if you main Gwen, sure, but like, if you first pick like a tank or something, and then they lock Gwen, you're just getting cooked no matter what. But I guess that's true for a lot of these champs versus tanks, right? Snip Snip. Base damage per snip, 10 to 24 is now 10 to 26. So a little bit more damage on the snip. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. Remember that the Snip Snip hits multiple times. So you stack it up, you get multiple hits, and these little extra increments of damage actually add up. Skip and Slash. Bonus attack speed, 20 to 80 is now 30 to 80. So an extra 10% bonus attack speed at level 1. That's pretty substantial. That's very good for her trading. Honestly, this is also very good for Gwen jungle. Right? A bunch of bonus attack speed at level 1. Not bad at all. Hui. Hui's 26.08 changes to how his abilities slow stack and interact with other sources of slows had a larger negative impact than expected. While we had put in a compensation buff along with that change, it's clear after a few patches that he has ended up worse off from the change. So we're giving him some power spread between his Q and E to keep all his abilities feeling relevant. So Q, Subject Disaster, his QQ damage, 50 to 170 plus 70% plus 7% max HP is now 50 to 170 plus 80% AP. And still scaling up to 7% max HP. So an extra 10% AP scaling on his QQ. QW, 60 to 160 plus 25%. Let's just see where the change is. An extra 5% AP scaling. Increased up to 105%. Wow. So we get a base buff here of 5% AP on the bottom end. On the top end, we're looking at almost 20% on the QW. Wow. And then the QE slow got increased, 35%. So QQ is the fireball. This is the lightning bolt, I'm pretty sure. And QE is the fisher. So the fisher has more slow. The QW is way more damage potentially. And the QQ also got a nice buff in damage. So overall, huge buff to Hui's Q. E Torment, cooldown, 13 to 11 is now 12 to 10. So minus 1 second across the board for Hui's CC tools. Not bad. Nice little buff to Hui. My only issue with this champ is that he fights you from off screen, but a lot of champs do, right? Like, it's not worse than like a Xerath. Plus, he's harder to play. Jax, favorite Grandmaster at Angley, has been patiently waiting for his time to strike. Jax is meant to be a high damage threat who ramps up in fights, but currently he's been a fish bait pick against durable opponents. These changes should help with that without pushing him over the fishing line. I don't know that Jax really needs buffs. He feels like such a versatile pick, and then he's like instant win in so many matchups where the opponent is reliant on their auto attacks to win. Leap Strike costs 15 less mana. Counter Strike. Target max health damage 3.5 minimum, 7% max. Now 4% minimum, 8% max. Okay, these aren't absolutely massive changes. This is fine. You can Q a little bit more before you run out of mana. Counter Strike does a little bit more bonus percent HP damage. I guess that's fine. Especially like they said with the changes to Dusk and Dawn, so AP Jax is not really as good as it was before. This is fine. Lee Sin. The recent changes taking away some of Lee Sin's kit restrictions have been cool for Lee players, but he's clearly just too powerful now with more outplay potential. We are nerfing his raw damage to balance him out. So minus 0.3 AD growth, so 0.3 AD per level, you know, it's minus 3 AD at level 10. Not a whole lot, but it is a small incremental nerf since everything he does scales with his AD. Sonic Wave, 65 to 185 plus 95%. It's now 60 to 180 plus 90%. So minus 5 base damage and minus 5% AD scaling. Resonating Strike, this is the follow-up kick. 65 to 185 plus 95, 6180 plus 90. So the exact same change. That's actually pretty substantial. He's losing 5% damage on both versions of his Q with a little bit less AD scaling. I mean, you're going to feel it. It's not the biggest nerf in the world, but you're going to feel it 100%. Nocturne. Nocturne has been in quite a strong spot for a while. If I recall correctly, hasn't Nocturne always been one of the most popular champs among newer players? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I really am at the point where I feel like they should just rework this champion already. We've been waiting on the Nocturne rework for a long time, right? Because Nocturne was in the poll with all of the other champs who got their rework, right? So it was Udyr, Skarner, Shyvana, Tryndamere, and Nocturne, right? Skarner, Udyr, and Shyvana have all gotten their reworks. With Shyvana just got hers, right? A couple months ago. So, yeah. If we're looking at that poll, that was from a few years ago, right? How long ago was that? Was that like 5 years ago at this point? Damn. But yeah, we've gotten our Skarner, Udyr, and Shyvana reworks. Now if they still have those champions to be reworked, we need Nocturne and Tryndamere. So let's take a look-see here. Q, Dustbringer. 65 to 245 is now 65 to 225. Minus 20 base damage. Damn. Okay. It makes sense, right? Like, the main reason you're locking Nocturne anyway is just because of his R. Pressing R and stealing vision from the entire enemy team and potentially ganking any potential part of the map I mean, Nocturne's always going to be good. He's good in pro play. He'll always be good in solo queue for the same reason, because obviously your solo queue teammates don't have that level of communication that even a pro team would have. So Nocturne can literally strike and really take advantage of people's lack of awareness. Makes sense. And of course, you can't change Nocturne without changing Orianna. This is an OG combo. Nocturne with the Orianna ball on him. Often called League's perfect champ, Orianna in recent years has been doing it all and more. Dominating lane, protecting allies, outputting extremely reliable damage in teamfights. It's the highest pro priority in recent patches. We feel like too much of her power is in early lane dominance. She should still show up, just more situationally, and for 3k elo shockwaves rather than early game bullying. Yep, so nerf to Nocturne, and then nerf to Nocturne's best friend, Orianna. 20 less base health to make her a bit squishier, a bit easier to kill. Clockwork Windup, minus 5% on the damage increase. I mean, 5% is a pretty big amount of damage to lose anyway, but she's losing it for each stack. It's a lot of lost damage on her passive. Command Shockwave damage. 250 to 550 plus 95 is now 225, so 475 plus 110. So less base damage, but it has higher AP scaling. That's pretty reasonable, I think. Right? Like they said, they're just trying to nerf her early game, so this is a nice little adjustment here, compensation. Once she gets a few items, the Command Shockwave is going to hit way harder. Rise. Rise's early game trading has only gotten stronger with Deathfire Touch. For a champion known as a scaling combo mage, we feel his laning has gotten too unassailable. So like Orianna, we're tuning down his early game a bit to keep his power budget in the late game as he's intended to be. So early game nerfs to Rise, minus 25 base HP and minus 3 base AD. So toning down his basic attacks and giving him a little less HP to make him easier to kill. Again, this just makes sense. This champ gets harder to kill later, right? He builds a rod. He builds archangels. So he has a bunch of bonus HP. He has a huge shield. At times, they even built like super defensive items like a Frozen Heart. So, reasonable. It's nice to see Rise actually be, good. Silas is one of the champions who has come out worse for wear since the start of Season 2. We think he is still a powerful early lane bully, but he's lost enough power that his scaling is critically low to the point he's completely one note, so we're helping him out there. Okay? Silas is a weird one, though, because I feel like a lot of his strength is completely based on matchup, right? You match into the right champion, Silas is doom, right? There's a Malphite on the enemy team, you lock Silas, you're winning the game. It's stuff like that. Q, Chain Lash. Initial damage, 40 to 120 plus 40 is now 40 to 140 plus 45. So not only is he getting a nice 20 base damage buff on his Q, he's also getting 5% bonus AP scaling. Kingslayer, heal him out. 20 to 100 plus 20 plus 5% bonus HP. Increase up to 100%. It's now 20 to 100 plus 30% AP. So an extra 10% AP scaling on his heal. Specifically the heal. So Silas gets more damage and he's a bit more durable now. Silas is one of those champs that's deceptively tanky because of how much he can heal off of his W. So, very interesting. Syndra, pass the ball, Ori. Syndra has had some of her more reliable damage stripped away recently in W and R, so we want to give her the tools to start pushing for that scaling fantasy with Dark Spear. Base health increased by 20, so that's why they brought up Orianna. They took away Orianna's HP and gave it to Syndra. And then her Q, 80 to 220 plus 65, is now 90 to 230 plus 70. So Syndra got a little bit more base damage plus 5% AP scaling on her main ability. I guess Syndra wasn't one-shotting enough people, so she gets a nice little buff here to make her a little bit tankier and make her more reliably able to deal the damage we all know and love her for. Tristana. It's been 2 years since we've seen marksmen run over the mid-meta. While we absolutely don't want to go back to that world, we do feel like some marksmen in make for an interesting flavor of game. So you're buffing Tristana mid. I don't think I agree with that. Tristana makes for a good candidate as she's been absent since we added mana cost to her queue in a couple seasons back. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Tristana's not really a champ I see a lot of ever. So I can't really say that I'm against it all that much. But I don't know. I feel like lanes in this game are in a really awkward state right now. Like, you see memes about it all over social media, right? Mages and marksmen love top lane. A lot of top laners are now going mid, and a lot of mid laners are now going bot. So I feel like you're just kind of pushing that idea now, because what's stopping someone now from just playing like Tristana top, for example, you know? Where she's going to scale for free and never be in any danger. Anyway, AD growth plus 0.5, really half an AD? It's very scary because, alright, fine, she's dealing more damage, sure. Rapid fire. Mana, 30 to 50 is now 15 to 35. So minus 15 across the board on her Q. Alright, man, I don't really like the idea of buffing more marksmen for solo lanes. Personally. Varus. Varus has steadily become the highest priority ADC and top laner over the course of the year among the top tiers of gameplay. I mean, he was already a high priority ADC for the past couple years, at least in higher levels of play. But yeah, he is kind of dunking on top lane and has been. While the change to experimental hexblade should help alleviate his dominance in top lane, and bot lane we're looking to further disincentivize oppressive early game focused lethality builds. Will be relatively less impactful to the most common on-hit builds, helping him scale a bit better. So another nerf to lethality Varus, seemingly. Living Vengeance, his passive. Non-champ kill AD and AP. 1% bonus for his AD and AP. On-champ kill, an extra 8% of his total attack speed. And then non-champ kill attack speed. He's losing a little bit of attack speed, though. Minus 20% attack speed in exchange for bonus AD and AP. Piercing Arrow, damage. 53 to 240 plus 100%. Still 53 to 240. Wow, minus 20% AD scaling on his Q. I was just about to say, how does this disincentivize lethality? Well, there you go. Minus 20% damage nerf. And then another minus 30 on the bonus AD from 150 to 120. God damn. I don't want to say they gutted this ability, but they took it out back, man, and beat the crap out of it. This is a massive nerf to Piercing Arrow. But like they said, they're trying to kill the upfront damage and make you more likely to go for the attack speed builds, right? This bonus AD and AP scales off of his attack speed, so you want to build more attack speed, and this is going to make you pull back from building flat damage. Blighted Quiver, on-hit damage, 8 to 44 plus 15 plus 25. It's now 4 to 40 plus 15 plus 25. So a little bit less damage on the Blighted Quiver, probably as a preemptive adjustment to the fact that they did this. Alright. Bears got socked in the mouth. Kind of love to see it. At the very least, this ability, his Q getting hit this hard is crazy. But it makes sense. Xin Zhao. So they're nerfing AP Xin Zhao, right? AP Xin Zhao continues being far too strong in mid lane. We are following up last patch's adjustment with a straight nerf this time. So passive determination, healing 3 to 5%. Up to 80% AP is now 2 to 5. So it's worse in the early and mid game, plus up to 70% AP. So minus 5, minus 5, minus 10. Alright, that is a huge flat nerf. Just knock down his healing. His W, they equalized the mana cost. It's straight up 60. It does not get cheaper anymore. Audacious Charge costs an extra 10. So Xin Zhao is spending more mana and getting less healing. Will that be enough? I think this will be enough to very much dissuade people just locking this in every game. I think it'll still be a decent pick, though. Yumi, something I was worried about. I saw spoiler teleports down there. As the only champion in the game with built-in healed/shield power, Yumi was hit the hardest by the Moonstone Renewer mechanics changes in 26.09, giving her AP ratios as a compensation buff to help keep the enchanter items optimal for her. Does this make anyone happy? I feel like the only people who like this change are people who shouldn't have access to this champion in the first place. Feline Friendship heal amount 20 to 110 is now plus 5% AP scaling on her passive. The Zoomies shield amount 65 to 140 plus 10% AP added to the Zoomies. Alright. I don't really like Yumi buffs, but she's getting some AP buffs here. Her AP ratio is a little bit better on her passive and E. Sure. Why not? I feel like this is the most universally hated champion in the game. So I don't know. I don't approve. Systems, teleport. You get teleport, everyone gets teleport. In a post-Roll Quest world, we're still monitoring how top laners that don't want to use combat summoners can have their gameplay fantasies furthered. Current state of top lane TP shields does not incentivize the kind of action or traps we like. Pretty clear the expectations are being broken. So we're making an adjustment here that we hope encourages more immediate cross-map action. If you want more immediate cross-map action, maybe teleport shouldn't be the same way. Or maybe teleport should be the same way it used to be instead of this weird Hexgate warp nonsense. Anyway, 30% health shield for 30 seconds is now 35% for 10 seconds. So the shield is bigger, but it's for a much shorter period of time now. So now once you teleport, you only have so much time to take advantage of that shield. I pretty much understand what they meant. It was easy to teleport in and then not do anything because you're just sitting there with a huge shield so you could wait and bait out stuff. Now the shield's a little bigger, but you need to be more aggressive with it because you don't have a whole lot of time. All right. Last but not least, Aram Mayhem. Now, we're not going to go over Aram Mayhem because I'm going to play Aram Mayhem right now. Right now. So, before I hop into Aram Mayhem, obviously, of course, I want to thank those of you on YouTube who are watching this now. This was about 35 minutes of patch notes. We got a good look at Locke. We got a good look at that other stuff. My camera froze for a second there. I wonder how often it does that. Anyway, I don't know if the patch is already live. We're about to find out. But for my YouTube peeps, thank you for tuning in so much. Yeah, I'm a little excited for Locke. I really am. Mostly because, like I said, it feels like he kind of has a more, I don't know how to put it, like a more punishable playstyle, right? I feel like a lot of the really good assassins are so good because it's hard to punish them, right? Like, again, Neferi has a point and click, I'm going to get to you. And then she has a dash. And then she has her dogs that block skill shots. And then she has an untargetable. And the untargetable is really the part I think that upsets a lot of people. But Locke has nothing like that, right? His movement speed plus gray health, which is a very interesting thing to put on an assassin. Because it feels like a lot of his mobility is really just going to be tied to him catching other people as opposed to just running away. But anyway, we'll see how it is, right? I don't think we have numbers yet. So I'm not sure just how often he's going to be able to use the mobility he does have. I haven't seen him at his strongest yet, so I don't know what a Locke with 3 items looks like yet. It didn't look that scary just looking at the champion trailer there. It looked like he'd be a cool champion that does cool stuff. But with no percent HP damage or anything crazy like that, I do imagine he's going to have some significant weaknesses, especially against tankier teams. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that. The patch is kind of meh. I don't like some of the changes they did make, especially buffs to champions like Yumi. But I think everything else was kind of in line, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, my YouTube peeps, thanks for tuning in. I will catch y'all next time. Peace. Peace.